Hey, good evening, everybody. So I tell you, I'm in a really bad mood today. Okay. But I knew I was going to speak about happiness, so I had to work my way out of it. It was raining. Not everything went exactly the way I had planned and wanted to. Sunday, what can I say? But that's life. So, but Baruch Hashem, we have to be happy no matter what's going on. And so I'd like to. Hopefully, we'll walk away with a few practical exercises and things that we can do right here before we even leave the room that can hopefully help people just in one moment, in one fell swoop, achieve happiness. First thing I'd like to share with you is just an idea that in all the years that I'm busy trying to teach or help people, whatever it is, I came to the conclusion I can't help anybody, and that nobody can help anybody. There's a famous joke that goes for in the psychologist field, and that is, they ask how many psychologists does it take to change the light bulb, and the answer is one. But the light bulb's got to want to change, which means that I remember I was learning with somebody in Manhattan, and a nice businessman. He wasn't particularly religious at all, and he said, Rabbi, you're not going to try to convert me, are you? And I think he might have meant something. I was trying to do something else with him. I had an agenda. I told him I have no agenda. I said, I'll tell you the truth, Keith. I said, you're already Jewish. I can't convert you. Number one, I can only help you become more of what you already are. Right? But I came to realize that the greatest gift that you can give to somebody is to show them what they already have and to help them appreciate what they already are, and to help them become a little bit more of what it is that they already are. I remember when I was in Eretz Yisrael one time, a number of years ago. I was there for just 1 week, and during that week time that I was in Eretz Yisrael, so the Shabbos that happened to coincide. So I was going to a friend's house on Erev Shabbos. I had like 15-20 minutes, to wrap up and to get to where I had to go to get to my destination. And finally I held a cab, and it was like 10 minutes to go, and I had like a little 5-minute ride. So this nice Israeli cab driver pulled over, and I wanted to make sure that I left enough time that he should be able to get me to where I needed to go, and that he should be able to get back to where he needed to go also without being Mechalel Shabbos, Chas v'Shalom. So I remember that when I'm in Eretz Yisrael, I have this thing that I like to talk to Israeli cab drivers. That's my it's my mishagas. I like to see if I can maybe reach a heart that looks like it's distant or it's cold or it's or it's sealed off. And maybe, if I have a 10-minute ride, I try to pace myself. I don't know what I'm going to say or what I'm going to do, but I try to wake up something inside into touch and to make sure that I have a meaningful interaction with that person. Well, first of all, my Hebrew is not so good. I didn't learn Hebrew in the home. I learned Hebrew, Mishnayos in Chumash. So I speak basically Mishnaic Hebrew, which probably sounds like Shakespearean English. If you ever met anybody, how for Ata, where for Ata Shirutim, it must sound to their ears like, that's why if those who speak English answer me in English every time I speak to them. I happen to get that Erev Shabbos, happened to get this tough, rugged-looking Israeli fellow that looked like he was just caked in smoke, and and his head was shaved, and he had he had this very tough exterior to him. And I got 5 minutes, maybe even less than 5 minutes. First of all, I tell him where I'm going. The meter is ticking, and time is running out already. And so I'm looking for a way into even to start a conversation. I ask him, "Ma shemcha?" Uri, he says to me. Already with a tone that he's annoyed with the length of the conversation. That's it. Just Uri. He's swallowing the word like what do you want from me? You're going to try to get me to know me personally. And I tell him, "Me'efa ata Uri?" Where are you from, Uri? So he says, Yerushalayim. Now when he says Yerushalayim, I sense that there's sort of like an uptick, like a certain pride. I can hear in the background the music, na 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 na. I can already hear the music humming in the background, Yerushalayim, And I said to him, Uri, atam Yerushalayim. Now with those two pieces of information, I have to start to weave together a conversation, I said, Uri, ata kamod dag. I tell him, Uri, you're like a fish. He almost pulled the cab to a screeching halt and was ready to throw me. Go out through my cab. I saw he shot me a glance like suddenly I'm a mortal enemy. Like, what did I do? I said, Takamo dag. I said, Uri, ani tzarich lasbir. He said, yeah, ta tzarich lasbir. You have to explain, I said, yeah. So in my best Hebrew that I could work up, I told him, Uri. I said, Hadavar, for some, aladag, the most obvious thing about a fish, shehu gar b'mayim, that he lives in water. Kol hazman, hu b'mayim. Aval hadag ba'atzmo, hu lo yodea, shehu gar b'mayim, that he doesn't know that he lives in water. Ata uri, ata gar b'Yushalayim, Yerushalayim Yir HaKodesh. I told him, ba'ati me America, I came from America. He said, $2,000. I spent $2,000 for a round-trip ticket to come to Yerushalayim. Rak l'shvu echad, only to be here for 1 week. Ata gar po kol hazman, you're here all the time, Uri. Ata kamodag, ani mekaneh, I'm jealous of you, Uri. Shata gar b'Yushalayim kol hazman. Wow. What an unbelievable thing that Uri is sitting like a fish in water, doesn't even realize that he's in water. People are paying and people are praying for thousands of years to come to Yerushalayim Yir HaKodesh. And he's living there the whole time. Another day on the planet, another pack of cigarettes, another disgruntled passenger, another chavilah, another, life. You're living in Yerushalayim after 2,000 years of being away. Yerushalayim with a western wall. After a war of 67, how much blood was spilled, how many prayers. And he's living in Yerushalayim. He doesn't even realize it. And the same thing, we could laugh at Uri and say, Uri doesn't realize it, But we're in the same matzav, we're in the same situation. Well, this is the Mishnah in Pirkei Avos says an unbelievable thing. The Mishnah says, it says that the whole, all the enjoyment, all the pleasure of this world doesn't add up to a chorus ruach, to a whiff, to a smell of olam haba, to an exhaust fan. Like you're passing by a restaurant and they have the fan. Nobody's even charging for that smell that you get. It's for free in the street. In an Italian restaurant. Israeli food. Steak. Whatever it is. So that exhaust fan that's coming out, the exhaust fan smell of the next world is more intoxicating, is more uplifting than all the pleasures. Reb Dessler says that if you pack a pill that had all the ecstasy and all the pleasure and all the enjoyment that everybody had from the beginning of history to the end of history, all humanity. That's how fantastic, that's how amplified it is. And yet, the second part of that Mishnah says something unbelievable. It says that, he says, more than all the pleasure of olam haba, that's all the open pleasure of olam haba is one moment of tshuva and maisim tovim in this world. To be alive, to have one moment of tshuva and maisim tovim in this world. That we're alive, and that we have an opportunity to do tshuva and maisim tovim. Now tshuva, we think tshuva means that we're going to beat our chests, and we're going to go into psychoanalysis, and we're going to feel how bad we are. It's a chance to edit the film of our life. That's what it is, It's a chance to go back and say, I'd wish to disassociate myself with that. That is a moment if a person can shout in their mind, I'm sorry, Hashem, right now. A person can grab onto this moment and shout in their mind, please forgive me. No one's going to see it. No one's going to hear it. I scream to the heavens that the person lets forth from their own heart through their mind, and reverberates through the cosmos of their brain, and nobody else hears it. In that moment over there, it's such a chashuv moment. It's such an important moment. It cleans away it's like turning on the defroster. Suddenly the lights go on inside. Because we're burdened, we're carrying around so much stuff from the past. One of the things that makes us out of step and unhappy is that the mind is constantly flipping to the future. We're thinking about, what's going to be in the future? We're worried about the future, or we're guilty about the past. Right? Those two things, right? What happened to all the good moments? We're worried about the future, or we're guilty about the past. Those two things, we're flipping. What happens to the good present moments? So the Chazal tell us, our sages tell us, Ein ve'ata el tshuva, the only ve'ata, and whenever it says ve'ata with an ayin, and now, it says it always means tshuva. That's what the Chazal tells us. It's based on a medrash in Parshas Bereshis. Va'ata pentishlach es yado. Maybe the man is going to set forth his hand. And we have many psukim. V'ata Yisrael. And now Israel. Ma Hashem l'kecha. Sholem yimachur es Hashem. Asking you kim le'iras Hashem l'kecha. Except that you should fear Hashem. So why is ve'ata tshuva? And I wanted to say for two reasons. Because whenever a person does tshuva, right? Someone says, I'm going to go on a diet. Someone says, I'm going to start exercising. I'm going to quit smoking. I'm going to stop speaking Lashon Hara. I'm going to start hanging around with these people. I'm going to improve myself in this way. So, so if somebody says, I'm going to do it tomorrow, don't believe him. Tomorrow beats in its petty pace from day to day to the last syllable of recorded history. Sound and fury signifying nothing. It's a way, nobody ever means it when they're going to start their diet tomorrow. But when somebody thinks that yesterday, back in the old days when we were in yeshiva, we were big tzaddikim when we were young, and we had, someone says, I'm going to do something someday in the future, when I'm going to retire, and I'm going to have all the money I will have saved up my, I'm going to earn my second million. Didn't earn the first million yet, but I'm working on the second million, and I'm going to sit in Yerushalayim, I'm going to grow a beard down to my waist, and I'm going to say Tehillim, I'm going to get big puffy payas, and I'm going to give tzeduk, and I'm going to, then in the future. In the future, it doesn't happen. And someone thinks it's in the past someplace, so that's not tshuva. But when does tshuva happen? Tshuva happens right now. When a person says, that's it, now. They give a scream inside, they take that cigarette, they crush it, they said, that's it, they close the book, they turn off the machine, that's it, I'm not going here anymore, finished, Gemarno. And that's a moment of tshuva. This world is worth that moment, that decision point, that when a person makes such a decision like that. The other thing is, sometimes a person feels guilty for the past and is worried about the future. What happened to all the present moments? All the beautiful present moments. All Kodesh Baruch Hu gives us is this moment over here. That's the only real live moment. So I wanted to say one time that why is a person worried about the future? Because he's guilty about the past. I have a friend of mine that he signed some documents. He shouldn't have signed them. He passed them. Somebody told me you sign these, and then the bank will pass them, and don't worry about it. And all of a sudden, the feds came knocking at somebody's door and somebody else's door. His hair turned white overnight. For the next year and a half, anytime somebody rang the doorbell or the phone rang, he told us, I'll get the phone. Don't answer the phone. What are you answering the phone for? The mail is coming. He's going to be the first one to answer the mail. He had to retain a lawyer for $50,000. Now he's looking out over his shoulder. He's waiting for the other shoe to drop. Ironically, the day those planes hit the tower, his case was taking place in the basement of that building, and his case ended on that day. But it's a sort of a perverse irony over there. But I remember that because he felt guilty about something that was chasing him from behind, he's waiting for the other shoe to fall, so he's worried, always looking into the future, what's going to be. But the minute the person reconciles themselves with the past, then the person ein v'at l'tshuva, now the person is back with Hashem Lokecha. Ma Hashem Lokecha, shol imach ki im liyirs Hashem Lokecha, to be with the Kodesh Baruch Hu. And really the whole idea of Simcha is not just a nice thing, it's a nice passing feeling that you feel. Simcha, the Reb Samson Raphael Hirsch says on the pasuk that we say, capital Kuf, Ivdu Hashem b'simcha, serve Hashem with simcha. He says, true simcha. He says the feeling of steady and constant and spiritual moral growth. It's an expansion of the neshama. That's what simcha is like. He relates it to the word sameach, to sprout. Ezehu asher hasomeach bechelko hatsomeach bechelko. The person is sprouting, is growing their portion. He says moral growth, the continuous growth of all that is truly human in us, is a blissful joy of life that is not subject to change in any manner by outward circumstances. He says that's what simcha is. Simcha is generated when the person comes to realize that they're doing something that the neshama is starting to feel excited, that the neshama is waking up. Kir v'selukim li tov, David HaMelech says, coming close to a Kodesh Baruch Hu, that brings us simcha. We're getting closer to our goal. We say in our morning tefillahs, we say, Yismach leiv mevachshi Hashem. Happy is the person who's always, Yismach leiv mevachshi Hashem, who's searching out Hashem. So Reb Simcha Zisel, the Alter from Kelm, said a very beautiful idea. He says, Yismach leiv mevachshi Hashem. Happy is the person who's seeking out Hashem. Listen to this. He says, normally a person who's going to look for something, is looking to shop, to buy a house, or whatever it is looking for shidduch, or it could be, if they don't realize that they're really looking for their chelik, they're looking for a piece of Hashem, so they can get lost in the process over there. Truth is, those things are also Meis Hashem. It's also looking for Hashem. He says, Yismach leiv mevachshi Hashem. He says, when it comes to looking for certain things, until we find the job, until we find the thing that we're looking for, we're not satisfied. It was a failure of it. It feels like a failure of a day. But Yismach leiv mevachshi Hashem, he says, just looking for Hashem is already Yismach leiv. It already gladdens the heart, because we know we're heading in the right direction. We know what we're looking for. A person looking for a shidduch, they're also looking for Hashem. Right? Looking for a house, you're also looking for Hashem. Looking for a bias, looking for a place that they can invite the Shechina into. Waiting for a house, a husband and wife, im shalom b'neihem, Shechina b'neihem. So it's also looking for Hashem. If a person knows that that's what they're looking for, so even the step in the right direction, looking for a job, Arbaim Yom Kodim Yitzir Savlad, Yotze Basko, a voice goes out, Amar Bas Ploni L'Ploni, Bias Ploni L'Ploni, Sodeh Ploni L'Ploni. All these things are also part of Yismach leiv mevachshi Hashem. Okay, so now one idea is do tshuva. Now, a person does tshuva. It doesn't have to be even an outward thing. You don't need a Yom Kippur, a Sarashem tshuva, even in one moment. Boom. What a life we have. What an opportunity. And a person does tshuva at every moment. Right? Shuv yom echad lifnei misascha. To do it at night, to do it in the morning, to find another moment in the day when you have pause, and to do tshuva at that moment. It's worth all of the Chai Olam Haba to do such a thing like that. Okay, number 2. concept of actions trump words. I remember speaking about this one other time. What does that mean? That means, let's say a person's in a down mood, So let's say I slump my shoulders, and because I'm in a down mood, I want to be authentic. I want to be genuine, I'm a sourpuss today, I'm having a hard time, But let's say I slump my shoulders, but I start to say something like, well, I'm having a great time. I'm really glad to be here with everybody, It's really, you guys are really stupendous. What a great audience we're having here, Wow. Thanks a lot. Thanks for coming, everybody, Great. So what do you believe more? You believe more my posture and my tone, or do you believe more the words, If you get such an email like that, you wouldn't know what to think. But if you see me, you realize he doesn't mean it, Because the posture gives away everything. The truth is, if I throw my shoulders back, and put a big smile on my face, like I just won the lottery, like I'm a chassan today, and get that winning smile on and say, "Gosh, I'm really depressed." Went over the Whitestone Bridge, thought about stopping for a few minutes, and looked down into the water and said, got a shir to give tonight. Maybe on the way home, Yeah? Like, what do you believe? It's hard to believe it, because the truth is, when I take on a different posture and I put a different look on my face, it already changes my attitude. It's incongruous. It doesn't make any sense. And a person can change their posture in 2 seconds. In the Mislas Yesharim says, Tenuas achitzonius mareses apinimius. Sometimes a person just slouches down and they let their, don't be so authentic. Put a smile on your face. Have a makablas kol adam l'seber ponim yafes. Put a smile on her face. It's an obligation to have a smile on the face. It's an obligation to sit up and to put it and to feel good, and to change the posture and put a smile on, and that immediately changes the whole attitude that the person has. It changes our attitude, because the words become, even if I say I'm depressed, no one's going to believe it. I'm not even going to believe it if I say it, if I take on that attitude. Right? They say, what type of blood type should a person have? They should have the blood type B positive. Right? Right? Sometimes we're sitting at dinner time, and my kids will say something to the effect of, Abba, your Ima, the dinner stinks. I said, kids, you got to be positive, And I said, I'm positive it stinks, Now, of course, that's not what I mean. I'll explain what I mean in 1 second. Amen. I once heard an unbelievable, such a sharp idea like this. I mean, it had me shaking for a whole summer, and every time I think of it. And the idea goes like this, that to be a positive person, to be positive, there was somebody who had a life filled with tribulation, difficulties. Many people do. And they were talking to a certain counselor, rabbi, and they were like pouring their heart out. This is what happened to me, and I got rejected here, never got accepted here. This didn't go easy for me, and that I got, and I went over here, and I couldn't find my place. All kinds of different, terrible, terrible tale of woe, and a string of tragedies and difficulties, and medical and social, and all kinds of different things. You name it. And afterwards, he dumped out. He put it all out on the table, and this rabbi looked up at him and said, wow, he says, now I have two choices. But he really meant, he says, you have two choices. He says, I could either respect you, or I could pity you. I can feel sorry for you. He says, which do you want? Which do you choose? But I can't do both. Do you want to be respected, or do you want to be pitied? You want to sit and play victim and tell a story where, the world is against me, I'm Charlie Brown, and I get no breaks, Or do you want to spin it like, and Afal Pecan, and even still, boom, this is what I made out of myself. My son, my oldest son, when he got married, so I had a chance to get to know her family a little bit better. So his wife, my daughter-in-law, her grandfather, right, the Kala's father's father, was a man. He told over his story, that he wanted the children. He says it over at the Shever Brachas for all of his married children. He says how he lived in a hole in the ground for 4.5 years during the Second World War. Right? He was a child of 11. Right? And then for 4.5 until he was 16 years old, he and his family and maybe another sibling and his parents and his grandparents, they lived in a hole in the ground that wasn't bigger than just like 15 or 20 feet. That was it. And they have it covered over with bramble. They'd have to go out into the woods and get berries and steal food and do whatever they could and then come back. And in the cold of winter, he had his toes removed by a blunt instrument. By his mother had to remove without any anesthesia, had to remove the toes on one foot. And then he came out of that pit after the war, and he immigrated to North America, and he came to Canada, where they were speaking English and they were speaking French, and he didn't know either of those languages. He had to learn English and he had to learn French, and he learned Hebrew, and he educated himself in how to become a Ben Torah. And he raised the Jewish family, and he built a business. And he has a smile on his face, that would put any person walking down the street to shame. Now, here's a fella that had every excuse and every reason to fold like a cheap table, and to say, life was not fair to me. They took the most crucial and critical years, my high school years, my fun years, while everybody else was getting their high school diplomas and carrying on and having adolescence. He didn't have an adolescence, but he made a life for himself, right? And he doesn't complain about it. He just wants to let people know that, it's not the circumstances in life. It's never the problem that's the problem. It's what we do about the problem that's the problem. So a person who wants to take I know some people, they told me that the rabbi looked at me, and I didn't like the way he looked at me, so I left yeshiva and I never came back. He looked at me, and that was my story, Don't you agree with that, huh? You should have seen how he looked at me. He gave me a look, a critical look, and my parents gave me a critical look once, ooh, and I'm not saying, sometimes it was a critical look, and sometimes they looked at me with a look that, ooh, and they were judgmental to me. Oh, they were judgmental. Oh, But is that the cause? Is that really the reason? Do we want pity, right? Do we want to have a pitiful story, a sympathy story, or do we want to be respected? That's a choice that the person makes. That's what this counselor put in front of that person. Therefore, here's another unbelievable thing. I once heard this from, I don't know how many people can remember Yitzchak Kerzner. Anybody remember Rabbi Yitzchak Kerzner? Zecher Tzaddik Levracha? Wow. He was from the beginning of the Tshuva movement. I knew him well. He was an unbelievable person. So I remember he said something on a tape that, I had to discount it. I'd say, Rabbi, to myself, I love you, you're great, you say great stuff, but this is too negative. He says, this is the definition of happiness. This is how you achieve happiness. And he said 2 words, but I just, I parked it on the side. I said, sometimes the rabbis are wrong. You know what I'm saying? But then I realized it took me years to appreciate that although it sounded negative, I said, this is great. This is really, this is the key. Now, and I had to put it into practice, a serious practice one time. And I pulled it out, and I said, now this is the time for it. I used to do these exercises with my boys and with my girls a little bit less, but something called the 101 Club. The 101 Club is, we take a phrase, and we'd repeat the phrase, 101 times. My kids know it for the next, for a yovel and for the next 1,000 years because they repeated it 101 times, and I give them a candy, and then sometimes we drive in the car, and they repeat that 101 phrase. We'd say it 101 times, whatever it is, a word, phrase like, tofasta maruba, lo tofasta, right? I know it sounds like an Italian restaurant, right? You grab too much or you don't grab anything. Tofasta muat tofasta. 2 of the words are exactly the same. If you grab too much, you didn't grab anything. You grab a little bit, you grab something. So one phrase at a time. We don't want to grab too much at one time. So tofasta muruba lo tofasta. And I'd explain to them what it means, and they repeated 101 times. And we had 100 of these little phrases that we repeated over and over to ourselves. Ner Elokim, nishmas adam. Ner Elokim, the candle of God, is the neshama of mankind. Wow. And we repeat it, and I tell them a little story. So one time we're going up to a hotel, and Baruch Hashem, we had the privilege to go to many hotels, and I think the kids got a little bit spoiled. So on the way up to this one hotel, we're going up to, I think, the Homoac. It doesn't really exist anymore. It's not a fancy, it's one of these bungalow-type hotels, where the walls are thin like paper. Okay, you know what I'm talking about. And we're going up, and it was like an NCSY convention type of Shabbaton. It wasn't a wealthy, one of these, with the chandeliers dripping and the swimming pool. And it wasn't one of those type of, and the kids were asking, are they going to have a smorgasbord? And are we going to have our own room? And are we going to have this? And are we going to have that? Their expectations were so high that they were setting themselves up for disappointment. Anything was going to be a disappointment after that. I told them, I'm going to teach you a 101 phrase right now, but it's going to be the first English one that we're doing. Oh, what's that one, Abba? Okay, you ready? And I pulled out Rabbi Kerzner's little sword out of my sheath. And the 2 words go like this. I said, you ready? I want everybody to repeat it 101 times. And I'm going to give everybody a little candy on the way up. Oh, okay, good. What is it, Abba? What is it? Here it is. You ready? Expect nothing. Expect nothing. I want everybody to repeat it 101 times. Expect nothing. I said, we have no bathrooms up there. Only little green, Johnny on the go, whatever, outside, For 100 people, we're all going to share one, And it leads to a pit in the ground. Oh, I said, and we're all going to eat one loaf of bread. I made this like, wow, and no bathroom, no shower, no, forget about swimming. You want swimming? Swimming. There's no swimming. And we're all going to sleep on one bed, on one cot. It's a roll-out cot. We don't even have our own room. We're all going to sleep in one bed. I don't want to go anymore. Can we go back? I said, no, because it's already Erev Shabbos and we're going to be there in a few minutes. They were like, sit there and they were crying. And I said, expect nothing. When they got up there, they were so happy. Oh, look at the door. The bathroom has a door, has a handle. They were so happy with the smallest things. And look, it even has a knob that locks on the inside. And, so what? The water is dripping and the light doesn't work. They were so happy to have a piece of kugel or something like that, before Shabbos and after Shabbos to have their own seat. And it was great. They were so happy. Why? Because they, when in doubt, I think that's one of Murphy's laws. When in doubt, mumble or something like that. Or when in doubt, lower your standards, But it's not lowering the standards because we have sometimes such high expectations, so it ruins our happiness. We're ruining our own happiness. We set the standards so high. Like the story about this fellow that was, every day he was complaining, these fellows sitting there said, they complain about, oh, look what my wife made for lunch. Look what my wife made for lunch. This guy opens up peanut butter and jelly sandwich. He slams down the cover of his lunch pail. And the next day, peanut butter and jelly, he slams it down. He says, why didn't you tell your wife to make something else? Fellow says, I make it myself. We set the expectation so high, and then we're disappointed. So really, it sounded like it was something negative. Expect nothing. But the truth is, it's really appreciate everything. Because if I expect nothing, I appreciate everything. And if I expect one of the best piece of advice that somebody gave me, before I was walking one of my oldest son to the chuppah, he said, what an unbelievable piece of advice. Just to set the expectation bar. The person said, expect 20 things to go wrong. That's all. Expect 20 things to go wrong. I said, what? Everything's planned. And Baruch Hashem, 15 things went wrong. That's all, I was spared 5, The first thing is, now everybody got dressed. Everybody's in the car. We're ready to go to the hall. And I said, okay, now it's time for me to get dressed and ready. And I took off, there's my suit. There's no clean shirts. I don't have any shirts. What happened to all my shirts? They were all clean. They're taken away from the, used up by the ufruf and by the this and by the that. I didn't have a clean shirt. I had some old shirt that looked a little bit, it wasn't quite, it was a little bit wrinkled, and it had like these button-down things. Nobody wears button-downs. That's what I'm going to wear to myself. I said, okay, number 1 wrong. I'm happy with that. Then I came there. I'm surrounded by Gedolei Yisrael and people, and they're signing the ksuba, and people come in, oh, Rabbi Label, how you doing? They're reaching across the table to give a hug and to give a kiss and knocking this thing where they hit each other's hats. You know that one? Oh, how you doing? Very awkward. So I come, and his bacher comes in. This sweet fella, he comes, he gives me a big, thing across it. He hits this, they have the big tall candle over there. The candle in a cup, and the candle tips over, and it puts like this, like this nice white splotch of candle wax down my suit, And I said right away, well, let me rub it. The more I rub it, the more it looks like, like white cream from a chocolate, from a cake, from a wedding cake. And the next 25 people who came over to me said, Rabbi Label, take it easy on the cake, would you please? I don't eat cake. I wasn't eating cake. And I explained to him, well, I wasn't eating the cake. He said some guy came over and he hit the cake. Yeah, I know. Just take it easy on the cake, And maybe don't drink so much before, And I'm sitting there like, thank God for Photoshop. When it came time for making the wedding pictures, the whole. I said, okay, another thing wrong. Checked off another box over there. Something wrong. Expect 20 things to go wrong. When I expected things to go wrong, something's got to go wrong Erev Shabbos. If I expect 20 things to go wrong Erev Shabbos, we're not going to be so upset when things go wrong Erev Shabbos. Right? Don't expect to find your car when you go out there, by the way. Expect something to go wrong. Okay, I'm going to tell you where I parked. Okay. So if you expect nothing, you appreciate everything. If you expect things to go wrong, then you feel happy that not so many things went wrong, right? We can feel good about it immediately. When we expect that everything's going to be perfect, so then we're tortured all the time that even if one little thing goes wrong, even one little thing doesn't go our way, it can ruin our day. You put your socks on and your toe goes through the sock over there, and you're walking around your whole day, your toe is wiggling inside the shoe, and nobody knows it but you, but it ruins your whole day. It's the little pebble effect, what's it called? The tile effect, where we notice, Ki Yetzel Adam Ra Minurav, the pasuk says in the beginning of in Sefer Bereshis in Parshas Noach, that the nature of the person is to notice what's wrong with this picture. I went to a beautiful shul in Lakewood. I'm sitting there. So what a beautiful! It was a magnificent shul. They said that the Rav made it al pi Kabbalah and this and that, and it's a multi-million-dollar building and every little. And I'm looking and I'm seeing that the molding where I'm sitting doesn't connect, on the top up there. And I'm sitting, I'm watching this molding. I'm saying, is it this optical illusion? I get up, I move my seat, and I'm watching. I say, the molding doesn't connect over there. How come the molding doesn't connect? I went to the other side, and there the molding connects. I can see that the molding meets. It was a very, nice, fancy. And I'm sitting the whole time watching this big, beautiful building, these ornate windows in a shul, and with an Aron Kodesh that was vaulting up in the sky. And I'm saying, how come the guy who put the molding over here couldn't put the little piece of molding, couldn't extend it out? Even I can see that. He couldn't see that. No, all I could study is what's wrong with this picture. I bought a beautiful suit, $165 suit one time, and I stopped on the side of the highway because someone else needed some help, and I got in the car, and I was walking past, and my car had a little bit of extra, had some metal sticking out of it, and suddenly I got a rip into my suit over here. Oh, yeah. What's with this? Oh, I got a rip in my suit. I went to the Chinese cleaner. They're going to reweave the suit over there, I asked her, how much does it cost to reweave the suit? $200, That costs more than the suit itself. Don't tell my wife, I had to do it. I couldn't take a look at this little thing over here. I tried to trim it down. The more I trimmed it, the more I cut into it, and nobody would even notice it. Nobody could ever notice. But to me, it was like the Grand Canyon over there. Every time I looked at it, I just couldn't live with the idea that I had the suit with a little hole in it. We can see what's wrong with it. But if we expect things to go wrong, and we expect that that's the way it is, then it doesn't have to ruin our day. It doesn't have to ruin our day. So one of the ways that we can appreciate, I would like to make a suggestion, a very, very profound suggestion that'll put you into a different orbit than everybody else that's walking on the planet. 2 suggestions. One suggestion is, write down every day. Write down on a little piece of paper. Carry around a little pad. Something like that. I have all these little pads and paper all around. Write down. It's something that can take 8 seconds. 8 seconds. 2 little things. 2 things that I appreciate this day. Whatever it was, I appreciate that my back didn't bother me. The other day, my back was bothering me. Got up on Shabbos morning, what's that? So today, the back felt okay, Got up today, had a good hair day today, I can't remember the last time I had a good hair day, I used to complain about bad hair days. Now I look nostalgically back on hair days, but, okay. But write down something you feel good. There was milk for the coffee, and the milk was good. There was hot water for the coffee. Sometimes the milk is good, but the water is not hot. I went to some place today and there was no hot water. Okay, I expected something to go wrong, so it didn't disturb my day entirely. Expect something. It'll take a look and see 2 things, and they can be the smallest of things, the smallest of the smallest, that you're able to button your shirt, that your fingers felt okay, that you're able to see. And it could be the smallest of small things, but you write down and you start to fill in little dots that I appreciate all the things that are good, all the little details of things that are going good for me. Not just the bracha that we make Malbish Aromim. Or Zokef Kufufim. But we write it down. Write it down with a little piece of paper, and then you can look back and you can review it. And then going along with that, here's a beautiful exercise that I do with my kids every Friday night, but it's something that a person can do if they want to take the time and just do this for 6 months, and you'll be different than everybody else that's walking on the planet. And they work very beautifully together. This one is, I ask a question on Friday night. We go around the table. The first couple of times I did it, it started about 8 years ago. My kids wanted to run away from the table. I'm telling you the truth, But I'm only sorry I didn't start it, 10 years earlier. And the question goes like this. What did you do this week that gave you a feeling of accomplishment? Let's go around. Well, what gave you a feeling of accomplishment? So you go around the table. It's amazing the answers that we come up with. One of my daughters says, I studied hard for a test, for the finals. We give like a little song that goes along with it. That's like giving applause. And it says, this one, says I got an 85 on a test. Oh, an 85? Someone says that's not a good grade. And the girl says, but 85, I studied hard for my math test. I'm not so good at it. And I thought I was going to fail. So I was happy with an 85. Somebody else got some money back. They got change back in a non-Jewish store. And they got change back. And that change, instead of keeping the change, she decided she's going to go back to the store and return it. And everybody crowded around to see this girl that returned, after buying an item and for $20, giving a $100 bill, and got $100 worth of change back. She went back to the store and she returned it. And everybody in the store crowded around to say, you came back to return the money? We hope that you find keys for a car. They started giving their form of a bracha, whatever it was, But she said she felt good that I made a kiddush Hashem. Nobody ever said I felt good that I got the pair of shoes that I was looking for. That was my accomplishment. That's not an accomplishment, that I got what I wanted, that I gave away something that I wanted to keep for somebody else, that I did something for somebody else, or I did something that was hard to do. That's what gives the feeling of accomplishment. We had 3 Bachrim from Or Sameach one Friday night. I'll never forget. One guy says, I had a nice conversation with my mother. Right? He had a nice conversation with his mother. Someone else, the guy sitting next to him, says, I finished the whole Sefer Tehillim every day this week. Wow. And the guy sitting next to him says, I made it to Shacharit 3 times this week. That was his battleground. That's what he was struggling at. So when a person realizes the area in which they're struggling, what their battleground is, and you make progress in that area, and you feel like you're either fortifying yourself or taking the next step forward, then that gives a simcha, that gives a zeal to the neshama. So here you take a look at these 2 things. Number 1 is the two things that we write, appreciation, and 2 things that we write that give a feeling, that express where did I get a feeling of accomplishment. If you take a look at it, it completes the picture, because the feeling of appreciation is what HaKadosh Baruch Hu is doing for us. We feel the closeness that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is giving us all of these little gifts, and in these great gifts, large and small, and the feeling of accomplishment fills it out, because that's what we're doing for HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That's what we're doing to expand our neshama. Those 2 things work very, very beautiful together. And along with that, since we mentioned that what excites the neshama, what gives a certain zeal to the neshama, is not because when we get what we want, when we do what we don't want sometimes. So sometimes it might be good. It gives us even, and the person get it simple right now. Achshav, if the person decides, if someone sitting over here decides, in one moment says, I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm not going there anymore. I'm going to go. I'm going to deny myself. I realize that I drink too many cups of coffee, or I realize that I'm listening to the radio too much. Whatever it is. I remember one of my rebbeim, we came to the davening in the morning, and he handed me and I got a cup of coffee. We used to learn together a couple hours before davening. He was a big person. I got him his cup of coffee. I got me a cup of coffee, and when I gave him the cup of coffee, he says, "No thanks." He parked it on the side. Then he took a glass of hot water and he put a little drop of milk in it, a white coffee, he called it. And I said, "Rebbe, no coffee?" No. He says, I found out, he says, that the coffee was drinking me. That's what he said. I didn't know what he meant by it. It was like a nice, quippy statement. The coffee was drinking me. What does the Rebbe mean? Then later on, I saw a very beautiful mushal by Reb Yozel Horowitz, the Alter from Navardak. They were into working on themselves, working on character very much. And he had one mushal like this. He explained, he says, sometimes a person says about a certain area in life, I'm under control. I'm okay. In this area, I only, smoke 7 cigarettes a day. I only check my emails and then look at a little YouTube and then check out to see if there's anything over here. And then and then I just sort of like do a little scouting around over here. And then, of course, I have to check out on the sports. But otherwise, I'm under control. I only put in 2.5 hours a day, And in the newspaper on the Sundays, I only do the op-ed page, and I do the crossword puzzle, of course, and I have to check my stocks, and I have to take a look at the news and a few, and the headlines on both sides of the page, and a few ads, the survey, and a few phone calls. But otherwise, I'm under control. I can do without it. And I only have 3 drinks a day. That's it. 3 drinks, a glass of wine and a glass of beer, and it settles me down, and I'm able to, fall asleep with my daf yomi, and it gets me into a certain mood that I'm okay, but I can do without it. Yeah, you can do without it. And then I go shopping on Sundays and every night when I have free time. But other than that, I'm okay. During school, I'm okay. Oh, really? So he says, let's say you see your friend Chaim walking down the street. And while Chaim is walking down the street, he's got these 2 big policemen that are on either side, and they're pulling him away. They look like they're taking him off to jail. I say, Chaim, what happened? What'd you do wrong? Why are they taking you to jail? Can I help you? And Chaim says, no, it's okay. I'm taking them to jail. I'm leading them to jail. That's what he said. He said, Chaim, it doesn't look right. What you're telling me contradicts what my eyes are witness to. It looks like they're schlepping you to jail. But if what you say is right, Chaim, then let's see if you can take 10 steps or 12 steps, in the other direction, And if they don't clobber you over the head and pull you away, with handcuffs like a prisoner, then you're demonstrating to me that what you're saying is right. Right? But if you can't, I'm afraid that this thing has control over you, And therefore, the Alter from Navardak says, see if you can stop something for 40 days. The Zettel Katan, Rabbi Elimelech from Lizinski, he said, if a person could stop something for 40 days, it's out of their system. Stop for 40 days. Let's see if you can stop listening to the radio for 40 days. Give it a try. Media diet. Your mind will start to clear up. The fog will lift. You stop worrying about all the things that are being imported into our brains. You start to develop your own pictures. You start to develop an appreciation for so many things. And stop all this worrying that's going on about things that we don't have any control over. Right? There's an old statement, Hashem, give me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change. Right? You've heard this, this Reinhold Niebuhr prayer, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Most of the people that I've spoken to that have serious problems is because they're spending their time, they're worrying about the things, and they're trying to control the things they have no control over. And the only things that they have control over themselves, they've relegated, and they've committed themselves that they don't have any control over those things. They've given up the ship, right? So the things that we do have control over, let's control our own thoughts and our own emotions. The things that we don't have any control over, what's happening in the world around us, it's in our circle of concern, but not in our circle of influence. So we let go of, Oh, you're not supposed to be concerned about what's going on in the world? Not to the point where it's going to drive me crazy. Let go. Or else you'll find out not that the news is watching you, but not that you're watching the news and you're listening to the news, but the news is babysitting you, right? And not that you're drinking the coffee, but the coffee is drinking you. And not that you're shopping, you're shopping at the mall, but the mall is shopping you. It's doing everything to you, it's doing everything for you. So a person wants to gain in one sense, I'm going to gain control in one area. There's something area I'm going to demonstrate to myself that I have control over myself. Immediately the person begins to take on a project, any project, the person can immediately feel a tremendous amount of simcha to know that they're conquering and they're conquesting and they're reclaiming their life, to reclaim your life. I'm going to gain control over kas, over anger. Imagine the next 40 days, I'm not going to let myself get angry. How about that? Let me see if I can do it. For the next 40 days, let me see if I can be a grateful person and a thankful person. I brought along a little meter with me over here. Take this thing. I bought it in order for this project, and that is, it's one of these things you can get it, for people who are going around the jogging tracks. That I shouldn't forget how many, it has multiple uses over here, but it's a counter, and it counts up to 1,000. So the Gemara says, based on the pasuk that we said before, Ma Hashem Elokecha Shol Mimach. What is Hashem asking you? Ki'im liyiras Hashem, except that you should fear Hashem. And the Chazal tell us that David HaMelech inserted a letter Aleph into the word Ma Hashem Lokecha Shol Mi'imach. What does Hashem ask him you? And he came up with a new word, and the word is Mea Hashem Shol Mi'imach. Hashem is asking you 100. What? Mea brachas b'chol yom, 100 blessings a day. So 100 blessings shows that we have gratitude, a curse of tov to Kodesh Baruch Hu. So if we say 100 blessings a day, that puts us in touch with that. That's the way we achieve Ma Hashem Lokecha Shol Mi'imach and Va'ata Israel. And now Israel, what is Hashem asking you? Ki'im li yiras Hashem. That's how we achieve yiras Hashem. But really, it's to express a curse of tov. I came up with an idea. Maybe throughout the day, express 100, say thank you to 100 different people. 100. Wow. Can you imagine? That's a busy project, And you walk around with a counter like this. Don't let people see it. Sometimes say, dear, the dinner was very good. When I started this at home, so my wife said, what was that? And I said, no, it really was. It was delicious. Okay, it just, you have to cover up this part of it where you're counting to yourself. But, if you can count up 100, why? Because sometimes one of the things that makes us unhappy also is that we're too self-involved. We're involved with ourselves. We're too into ourselves. Once the person begins to now take care of, you're right. There's certain things we have to do for ourselves. But if it's all about me, then it's ma'ani. It becomes a humanity crisis. It's not already an identity crisis. Me'ili. Mili. Who am I? But if it's only about me, then ma'ani. Then what am I? It's a humanity crisis. When the first time I ever went to go visit prisoners, right? So I remember I was trying to think to myself, what do I speak to Jewish prisoners about? Gosh, what would they want more than anything else? Let me see if I can stalk the mind of this Yodei Tzaddik Nefesh Behemto. What would they want? Oh, they probably want to get out of prison. Yeah, that's a good idea. I'll bet you they're waiting for those walls. The walls come tumbling down, and they can come walking out. That would be great. I said, okay, it's hard to promise that. So I said, okay, so let me try to think now. What can I talk to these guys about that would be of interest to them? That would be interesting if they can get out of prison. So let me try to think if there's anybody who was in Chumash who was ever in prison, and if they ever got out of prison, and who was that? I say, oh yeah, that's right. Joseph in prison. That's right. So not only religious, whatever. So I came and I spoke that day. I said, Rabbi Lam wants to speak to you. I was teaching in Hebrew Day School at the time, and the principal brought me there. He got involved with this program, and I came and I spoke to the Jewish prisoners over there that day. And I ended up coming back every Sunday for the next 8 years because we developed, and I felt like I connected with them that night. So what did I tell them? I asked them, I said, how did Yosef get out of prison? And they all said, because he interpreted the dream, and then the butler went to Paro, back to Paro like he said, and then when Paro couldn't sleep and was disturbed by his dream, so he remembered that Yosef said, very good, okay, sounds like you saw the movie, but you didn't read the book, how did Yosef get out of prison? They said, well, that's how we got out of prison. He said it right. And I said, no, you people, you know. Well, how did Yosef get out of prison? He said, what do you know? Well, that's what happened. Everybody knows that's what happened. What do you got, some odd medrash? I said, no, look in the Chumash. I opened up the Chumash. And it says that these fellows ended up in prison and they had a dream. And the dream was disturbing to them. And it says that Yosef got up in the morning. Now, if anybody in the whole world ever had a reason to lie in bed and to be depressed, right? Because he got rejected by his family, you know, really rejected, not because they gave him a look, you know, but they sent him and they threw him into a pit and they sold him into slavery and he ended up in Egypt. And then in Egypt, you know, when he was just trying to make good and do the right thing, you know, so he got brought up on Trump charges and he ended up in a pit, in a prison, in the darkest of all places in the universe, in Egypt. So he was rejected and he has Trump charges against him. Oh, this poor guy, what he had to go through in his life. If anybody had reason to pull the covers over his head and say, forget about it. He says, but he got up in the morning. And he heard that there's two new guys there, and he went to go look at them, and he went to go research, and how are you guys doing? And it says when he approached them, he says that there's a panim zo'afim. They had sad faces. He should have said, oh boy, if I'm going here to get cheered up for CPC, they ask people, what's going on the outside? What's the news from the outside? You know, and I see these fellows over here, I don't need to see anybody else's sad face. I got my own problems. He could have done a 180 and gone back to his own bed and said, forget about it. I don't need to see these people's sad faces. But when he saw their sad faces, he asked 4 words over there. He says, Lama panechem roim hayom. Why are your faces down today? Why are you guys sad? Ooh. So then they pipe up and they said, the butler pipes up and he says, because I had this dream. Oh, a dream that maybe I can help you interpret the dream. And then the baker, maybe I can help you interpret the dream. And so because he was concerned about somebody else, he was out of prison. How did Yosef get out of prison? Because he never was in prison. In his own mind. He was always seeking what he can do for somebody else. Prison is a state of mind. Ein ani ela b'das. So if a person is thinking, what can I do for other people? How can I help other people? So then that's a way of getting out of ourselves and getting out of our own, misery. It's not misery, you know, because we're living for other people. We're here to serve other people. One parent was telling his children, we're here to serve other people. That's what we're here for. And one of the kids raised his hand. He says, Ima, Abba. He says, what are other people here for? You know? It doesn't matter what other people think that they're here for. But we're here to serve other people. And if a person understands that he has a mission to serve other people and to get the key to his own happiness and to see if he can turn on other people by saying thank you and giving them an appreciation, wow, you can make somebody else's day. Think of what it means if somebody gave you a compliment and made your day. You can go give 100 compliments to people and make their day to make 100 other people's day. Imagine that, right? Who's the honorable person? Somebody who honors other people. The guy who's sweeping the street, you're doing a good job. The guy who opens the door, the guy who does this, you know, whatever it is, no matter how low it seems the position is, no matter how high the person is, you write them a letter and you tell them thank you very much and give out 100 thank yous a day. Just like we're giving out 100 brachas to a Kodesh Baruch Hu. It'd be a big project to make a person happy immediately. It would be a big accomplishment. You know how many people get encouragement? People wait their whole lives to hear one compliment sometimes. I remember from my whole childhood, I remember from 2 teachers that said something nice. 2 teachers. One said, Lam is a leader. You know, I don't know if it was true. I don't know if it was trying to manipulate me, but I remember that. I remember another teacher in high school said, Lam, he's task-oriented. A little contradictory, you know. But I said, yeah, that's right. And I still remember it. Stays with me to this very day because somebody, you know, looked at me and took the time to try to summarize something good about me. So I feel good about it, right? But that person's waiting their whole life to get a compliment, you're doing a nice job. Catch people doing the right thing and give them a compliment and give them an encouragement. Maybe we'll take 1 or 2 other examples and we'll finish up with this. Let's say, for example, somebody asked, I once heard from Noach Weinberger, Zecher Tzaddik Livracha. Okay, he said the following thing. He said, let somebody, you know, he says, somebody's really down, you know, to the point where I don't want to say, you know, to the nth degree. He said, let's imagine, he says, there's a guy, he says, you're at the Empire State, you're on the 88th floor of the Empire State Building. Or I don't think it goes that high. You're on the 77th floor. I used to visit somebody in the 77th floor of the Empire State Building. And he's sitting there in the lobby, in the reception area, and a guy comes up the elevator doors open up, and he comes out, and he goes over, and he opens up the window very wide. And then he backs up, he takes a running few steps back, and then he's about to, you know, stride, and he's going to go diving like Superman out the window. And he said, whoa, wait a second. What are you doing? The guy says, what am I doing? You want to know what I'm doing? He says, I'm going to end it all. Why? And he pulls out of his pocket a Megillah. And he shows you 49 things that are like terrible in his life, you know? His dog died. His wife left him, you know? He's diagnosed as this, you know? I remember telling the prisoners, they didn't like this joke. I apologize. I'll say it over here for whatever it's worth. You know, the guy sitting in the street, and he has one of those billboards in front of him, homeless, you know, Vietnam vet, hungry, HIV positive. I said, at least something's positive. You know? Okay. So the guy's got all these, you know, he got all these he's got a list of worries. He's like, oh man. He's like, you know, go ahead, let me hold the window open for you. You know, like it's terrible. What are you going to tell a guy, you know, when he comes to a situation like that? He said, you know, I hope everything gets better. You know, what do you tell somebody when things are so bad or so wicked? So, you know, like, wow, what a list of terrible, you know, situations you have in your life. It's like, what a matziv. So what do you say? He says, well, listen to this clever answer. He says, let's say there's 49 things. Let's take a 50th thing. What if on top of all that, you were blind and you never saw the light of day? Let's say. And you came tapping up through the elevator, you pressed the button to get up to the 77th floor, you asked somebody and they helped you, and then the doors opened up and you tapped your way over to the window and you opened up the window and you tapped your way back and you're about to plunge out the window, and all of a sudden as you're about to jump out the window, suddenly the lights go on. And you're able to see for the first time in your life. Would you jump? And the guy says, no. What would you do? He says, I'd walk around a little bit and check it out. You know, I'd look around and see what's going on. You know, he says, well, you can see, and you can check it out. Re'ei, ta'amu ru'u ki tov Hashem. Taste and see that Hashem is good. Go out and take a look and see color. I remember sitting with one of my boys one night. He told me, I'm bored, Abba. I told him, you're boring. He said, what do you mean? I said, come here. Let's play a game. I put a blindfold on him. I said, before I put the blindfold on him, I said, I want you to see everything in the room that's blue. Okay? I put the blindfold on him. I said, tell me everything in the room that's brown. He said, you said blue. I said, before I said blue, now I'm saying brown. You didn't see anything in the room that's brown? Okay, now let me uncover it. Now I'll cover up your eyes again. Tell me everything in the room that's made out of wood. You were saying brown before. Now you're saying wood. Yeah, that's right. Okay, I want you to notice. How many pictures are there in the room? Let me see what you see in the room. You don't see the room. You don't see where you're at right now. But now let's take the covers off and let's investigate the room. Let's look around the place where you happen to be, in the room where you are. There's so much to see. There's so much to observe. There's so much to appreciate. We can see. Everybody in this room can see. Everybody in this room can hear. Imagine if we were deaf and suddenly our ears went on, right? So we said, wow, I'd take some Chazak tapes and I would take them home. I would listen for a little bit, you know. We can. We can appreciate these things. I'll just finish up with one story. Something I heard from one of my Rebbeim. Beautiful idea, and we'll finish up with this. I remember when I was a bacher, it was 27 years ago plus. And it was a Shabbos afternoon, and and there was a psul found in the Sefer Torah. And because there was a psul found in the Sefer Torah, so we stopped reading the Torah. We didn't have a second one. And we went, and the whole shul, everybody in the yeshiva, migrated to a Hasidic minyan that started a little bit later. And we got there just in time that they were up to Kriyas Torah, and we managed to catch up with the Kriyas Torah. So that Sefer Torah that we had in shul was wrapped up with a band around the outside, and it was taken away to be fixed. Monday morning, okay, Yeshiva Bacher, Eschatai Ani Maskir Hayom, to quote the butler in last week's parsha, a couple of weeks ago parsha, right? So he wakes up, it was 7:30, davening at 7:30, 7:32, and I'm still in my bed. You know, catching an extra snooze dremel, a dream. And all of a sudden, I'm having this dream. And the dream is that the Sefer Torah, the way Ashkenazim, you lift up the Sefer Torah, the Torah goes, you know, with the two handles up like that, you know, not in the box. And I'm watching the Sefer Torah in front of me fall down like this, and it's falling. As it's falling, I'm going, I sit up in my bed, and I realize, oh, it was only a dream. There was no Sefer Torah falling. And I looked at my watch, 7:35. Let me get out of here. You know, I got dressed as quickly as I could, you know, with Negelvasser, Modani, and I'm suddenly there in davening 7:42, you know, and I'm in the corner, way in the corner, and I'm davening. I have my linear sitter. I'm doing my thing. It was a Monday morning. So after they called up the Aliyahs, Kohen, Levi, Israel, suddenly I feel a tap on my shoulder. I look over, it's the Gabbai, and he's telling me like this, you know, to come do Hagbah. He wants me to do Hagbah, you know. Maybe I'm one of the strong guys in the yeshiva, you know. So I'm still remembering the dream that I had. I tiptoe over to the Aron to the Amud where they have the Sefer Torah, and I'm walking over trepidatiously, and the Gabbai tells me, he says, "Watch out!" He says, "We got a replacement Sefer Torah. This one is a really heavy one." So I'm not sure if I want to even go near it yet, And the Gabbai Sheni, the second Gabbai, comes over to me and he tells me, he says, "The handle is loose." Good. I said, "Time out. This is, I'm not doing this." They said, "Why? Why?" I said, "I'm not doing it." And I walked over to the Rosh Hashiva and I whispered to him, said, "Rosh Hashiva," I said, "I just had a dream this morning that a Sefer Torah fell. I'm not picking up that Sefer Torah." And he tells me, "Rabbi Label," he says, "seeing a Sefer Torah fall in a dream," he says, "that's a very good dream." I said, "Really?" He says, "Yes." I said, "Okay, good." No problem, no event. They wrap up the Sefer Torah, they put it back. And that day I asked the Rosh Hashiva, I said, "Is it really?" He says, "Come with me." He said, "I don't have time to talk now." He says, "I have to do carpool." I said, "Okay, fine." We went and do carpool. There's a huge family. So it was a pouring rain day. There wasn't any space between the raindrops. We come to his house. He gives a honk. The kids come out. It was raining, raining, raining. The kids are coming into the car. The back of the van is open. And as he's waving them in, he's saying, "Rain is good. Rain is good. Rain is good. Rain is good. Rain is good." They're coming in. "Rain is good. Oh, the rain is good. The rain is so good. Oh, rain is so good." And then he dropped one group off at the school. And as he let them out of the van again, and they were going out to school, they had to run between the raindrops to get to the school. He said, "Rain is good. The rain is good. The rain is good." And he dropped off that group, and he went to another group, and he dropped them off. "Rain is good. Rain is good." Now the girls got off. "Rain is good." And then finally, when I had him alone in the car, I said, "Rosh Hashiva, is it really true that seeing a Sefer Torah fall in a dream is a good dream?" And he tells me, "Rabbi Label," he says, "the Gemara in Brachas tells us," and he's a huge Talmud Chacham, this person. He says, "Hakol holach achar hapisron," everything goes according to the interpretation. He says, if you want to give it a good spin, then it's a good dream. Even seeing a Sefer Torah fall, it's a good dream. So if a person, we say in Shir HaMalot, we say, "V'hayinu kecholmim," we will have been like dreamers. Life is a dream, right? If we want to give it a nice interpretation, say, rain is good. This is a wonderful father, a wonderful family, And how does he do it? He always puts a nice spin on it, right? If something bad happens, let's see if we can put, what can we learn from this thing? How can we improve from it? Even something, we get a little bump and a bruise. One of my rabbis had written on his refrigerator, our definition of the successful person is not the one who makes the fewest mistakes, but the one who learns the most from their mistakes, right? So even at this moment over here, if a person had made a lot of mistakes in their life and they had a lot of, so we have a lot of opportunities to learn. We have a lot of lessons to learn. If a person did a lot of wrong things, we can make a tshuva. We can make such a big tshuva, such a big fire of tshuva, that we can turn into who knows what. In an instant, we can turn into something very, very happy. If you want to write down 2 things to appreciate and 2 things every day that you feel accomplished by, that's going to put a different look. It's going to put a different spin on everything that we're doing. We're going to be looking for what a Kadosh Baruch Hu is doing for us. We're going to be aware of it constantly. We're going to think about what I'm going to write in those 2 little spots over there, and we're going to think every day about 2 things that I feel personally accomplished by things that I did. This is my battleground, and I'm making progress. When we're making progress, then those are the type of things that can give us the blood pressure that we need, which is the blood type which we need, which is called B positive. Okay, thank you very much, everybody. Go ahead.